Hello, this is Ray of Ozark Storm Chasers, and today was a normal day, and then the great Twitter timeline blessed us with some interesting conversation, to say the least. Recently, the Weather Channel announced the names for the 2022-2023 winter storm season. They're naming winter storms. And some people were curious why they were naming winter storms. Some thought this was something that everyone's doing, and they just don't understand why it is bad, and it shouldn't be done as a practice for atmospheric science and the weather industry. It's going to be a brief video discussing that. So they announced it a couple days ago, and immediately from meteorologists in the field, from National Weather Service employees to people who are in college to people who storm chase, they all criticized it pretty greatly, and I was included in that. I had a pretty lengthy reply to someone regarding that winter storm shouldn't be named. Now, why do we name hurricanes, or why do we name tropical systems in general? They are rare overall. There's about 100 of them worldwide every year, give or take a few. In the Atlantic Basin, the most we've had in 1 year is 30, and the least we've had is 1. So when a storm gets a name, it is significant, and it is a way for people to understand that it is an important thing to keep aware of. It is also something that allows multiple languages to communicate. Because, for example, the name Julia in English is Julia, but whenever it crossed into areas that generally had Hispanic as the main language, it was still Julia. So instead of changing the name or changing the term, it has a unified term used to allow people of different dialects and different languages to communicate with each other. It also is standardized by the World Meteorological Organization. Every spring, they meet up to discuss the prior season, what to improve, and this is also where they retire storm names. So a name like Katrina or Irma or Harvey would get retired and replaced with something else. They don't want to name winter storms because winter storms are a much more common occurrence, in the sense that you can have up to 50 of them in 1 year. And also, they are much harder to pinpoint. I mean, with tropical storms, they pick up the depression status at 35 miles an hour sustained winds, and they pick up tropical storm at 39, basically 40 miles per hour. But with a winter storm, it is very difficult to determine when you would name one. Is basically just based off of arbitrary measurements. Also, winter storms have a lot of different variables compared to a tropical system, because there are two main types of tropical warm core cyclones, and that is subtropical cyclone and a tropical cyclone. Tropical means that the winds are close to the center, and subtropical, usually it is more spread out and is a little bit more broad, but they both have very specific effects when you can really get rain, wind, storm surge, flooding, isolated tornadoes at landfall, and that's what you'd expect from a hurricane. A winter storm could have basically anything from ice, sleet, rain, snow, severe weather. It is much wider, so the use of a name wouldn't work as well. Also, it is just overall it is less uniform. When you see a tropical storm, you know what it is. They might look different, like Tropical Storm Kate definitely looks different from Hurricane Ida of last year, but they are both very clear. Winter storms can form in a variety of different ways and have no clear, uniform boundary of when you would name it. Now, briefly, I'm going to touch upon the point that in Europe they name windstorms, which is an extratropical low, kind of like many winter storms are, that affects the British Isles, Scandinavia, mainland Europe, parts of North Africa, Middle East. And those get named. They have a specific list that I believe they established last year, like organized established, to name winter storms. And they have pretty much the same effects as over here. It is an organized system that has very clear effects and affects a large area with very direct course. Which is why, and they're also, for a storm to get classified as a windstorm, it has to have a specific wind measurement of, I'm not sure, I want to say it's not 70 kilometers. I'll figure it out later. I'm always posted in the description, but to be officially classified as a windstorm and get a name, it has to reach a certain wind speed, just like tropical systems. For a winter storm to get a name, it doesn't have any of that. Both of those forms, like the windstorm, extratropical cyclone, and subtropical and tropical cyclones that you see over in the North Atlantic, both of those are very significant. Both of them are a rare occurrence that needs to be stressed for importance and needs to be able to be communicated across multiple languages. With winter storms, it is much broader and much more unable to pinpoint, because you can have a massive system, but if you just call it Nancy, then it's not going to do anything when you say 150 million people are going to be affected by winter storm Nancy. Whenever, that just isn't going to be, it's just not a helpful way of measuring. Also, the main reason they do it is for ratings. They want to have higher ratings, and thus they have special names to name hurricanes, or name winter storms, rather. Excuse me. But it's just for ratings. It's only the Weather Channel that does this. AccuWeather doesn't do it. The National Weather Service certainly doesn't do it. WeatherTrack US and Vortex Weather, which are two Twitter accounts that regularly relay information from the Weather Service and try to put it into more digestible terms. Both of them will not use winter storm names. And the World Meteorological Organization condemns it because it ultimately lowers the significance of having a named storm in the first place. My thoughts: it's stupid. It is ignorant at best and dangerous at worst to name things that are not official, because you have the ability to name a storm if it's significant enough, kind of like what we did with hurricanes before we had the official list. For example, we had Tropical Storm 2. Did it affect anywhere? Not significantly enough to pick up a name. But then you have the 1935 Labor Day hurricane, the Cuba-Brownsville hurricane, I'm going to butcher this, Okeechobee hurricane, which affected Florida. All of those picked up a name because they were significant. And the way we have hurricanes laid out now, they're significant and they pick up a name. But if you can do it with winter storms, and we have done it, we had the storm of the century in the 2021 Texas blizzard, the 2022 Texas blizzard, the deep south ice storm of 2010, 2011. I mean, it is just it's just something that the weather community really has to take seriously, because it could really lead to people getting confused and not communicating the information, and that's the full goal, is to help people and save people's lives. Thank you. That is all. I'll try to check in later. There should be some storms popping up at some point, but it's been dead. See you all later. Have a good day.